China will not invade Taiwan, at least not anytime soon, because Beijing actually likes the way the world looks right now. They like the status quo. Many people place China just behind the United States, the world's number two superpower. But others argue they've already taken the number one spot in key areas: manufacturing, infrastructure, global trade, and purchasing power. And here is the most important point: they've achieved this position without war. In just 4 decades, China has lifted over 800 million people out of poverty, the fastest, largest, and most dramatic poverty reduction in human history. They transformed from a poor agrarian country into a workshop of the world, and now increasingly a hub for high-tech innovations. That's why Beijing isn't eager to gamble everything on Taiwan. China's leaders understand something history teaches over and over: you can win a war and still lose everything that matters. Look at Britain. The United Kingdom won both World War I and World War II. Yet, those victories came at such a staggering financial and human cost that they marked the beginning of Britain's decline. The empire was dismantled, the economy hollowed out, and London went from the center of the world to a middle power.
Can I end with a very straightforward question? There's a big debate in Britain about what language we use about China. Are you a competitor? Are you an ally? Are you a threat? How would you regard your relationship with Britain?
First of all, between China and Britain, from the Chinese perspective, Britain is not a rival, is not a competitor, it is not an enemy, is not an adversary. Britain is just an important country to get along with in peace and in friendship and for mutual benefit. Now, how Britain looks at China, it's up to the British government and people to decide. But I think it would be completely misguided for Britain to view China as an enemy or adversary or a competitor. What do China and Britain compete with? China is the largest manufacturer of automobiles. Competing with Britain? No. China is the largest exporter of EV cars and will lead the whole world in EV production. Is Britain a competitor? No. China will be the biggest and most important producer and R&D in terms of semiconductor in no time. Does that mean that China competes with Britain? No. China will be the leading nation in AI revolution. Is Britain a competitor? No. So I think British government should not overestimate its impact on the global scene and view Britain as a rival of China. China is not. China is a fact. China is a megatrend for Britain to live with and get along with. Let's make peace rather than agitating for war.
China sees that clearly. For them, a war over Taiwan, even if they won militarily, could be a strategic defeat. Why? Because Taiwan isn't just an island, it's the center of global semiconductor industry, the tiny chips that power everything from smartphones to fighter jets. Any war there will throw the entire world economy into chaos. Sanctions will rain down on Beijing, global supply chains will collapse, investments will evaporate, and prosperity that China's people now take for granted could vanish overnight. The Chinese leadership knows that will threaten their legitimacy at home far more than Taiwan ever could. But there's another reason they won't move reckless. Time is on their side. In Chinese philosophy and history, patience itself is a strategy. Sun Tzu wrote in Arts of War, the supreme act of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting, victory without battle, power without bloodshed. And that's exactly what Beijing is doing. Every year that passes, China grows stronger and America grows more divided and overstretched. Militarily, China spends less than half of what the US spends. But because they focus close to home, their neighborhood, their forces are increasingly designed to keep America out of Asia. Economically, China's share of global GDP has risen dramatically, while America's share slowly declines. So Beijing calculates that it doesn't need to launch an invasion. By simply waiting, they will eventually leave the United States behind. In other words, China doesn't need to win a war to win the future. All they have to do is hold their ground, avoid catastrophic mistakes, and let time do the heavy lifting.